Alright, when it comes to the most scary and dangerous animals on Earth, there are many creatures that could hold that title. You know, you got our primate relatives who crave violence, and you got giant crocodiles who want to tear you limb from limb. And those are scary and all, but perhaps there are two animals that pretty much battle for first place when it comes to being an absolute nightmare. And those are polar bears and, well, the hippopotamus. Yeah, these animals are something you wish to not stumble across in the wild because simply you are not surviving. In fact, they are both amphibious, meaning that you aren't safe anywhere. They both terrorize land and aquatic environments, so perhaps jumping into a lake or straight up running away might not be such a great option. And you think you can outrun a hippo in its territory? Yeah, no. Hippos can run up to 20 miles an hour and, well, remember, you'll be sloshing around in mud and water. Well, you can try to climb a tree, maybe run in its zigzag pattern, or pray that the hippo will show you mercy. Yeah, good luck with the last one, by the way. They take Cobra Kai's model all too seriously. And as for the polar bear, well, do we really need to go over why you will be its meal? You are not outrunning a polar bear, especially in the Arctic. Yeah, since we are talking about the scariest animals, well, let's get to the topic that's on everyone's minds. What would happen if a polar bear and hippo were to fight one another? How would the largest land predator take on the infamous hippo? Who comes out on top? Well, this matchup is actually pretty one-sided, and quite honestly, the winner might not be who you'd expect. But before I reveal the obvious answer in this scenario and discuss how a fight may play out, we gotta establish some baseline stats for each animal. Also, before we start, I would appreciate it if y'all subscribed and commented on this video. And if we can grow this channel to 100,000 subscribers by June of 2025, I will record a video of me doing tug of war with a tiger or any big cat that's available. So let's try to achieve that goal. Sounds pretty fun. So yeah, with that out of the way, let's actually find out who wins this mismatch. Size and physique. The polar bear. They are the apex predators of the Arctic. In fact, they're considered the largest land predator, and with that title, you bet they have incredible strength feats. Polar bears have been known to straight up drag beluga whales out of the water and eat them, and even hold their own against 3,000-pound walruses. So yeah, they're definitely very strong creatures. And you know what? They are so incredibly ruthless and powerful that they're one of the few animals that have a flee on sight notice, because there is simply nothing you can do to really stop them. And well, good luck trying to fight one away. And when you have a better chance at fleeing rather than trying various other means to evade them, you know it's an absolute unit. But how big is a polar bear? Well, mature males weigh anywhere between 900 to 1,200 pounds and stand about 4.5 to 5 feet tall on all fours. That's a big carnivore. But what is their defense looking like? Well, they have very thick, coarse fur that is insulated with fat. This not only shields them from their freezing terrain, but also provides them a rather good build for taking damage. After all, they are relentlessly fighting other members of their own species and hunt multi-ton animals. And speaking of large, ferocious animals, there is one that is famously known for its sheer aggression, and that is the hippo. Now, we tend to think herbivores are dainty fodder that get mopped by carnivores. And well, that isn't always the case. Perhaps the hippo was created by nature in order to fight back. I mean, seriously, look at this thing's jaws. They can open up to 4 feet wide, and believe me, when they land a solid bite, it's game over. You know, polar bears may have a flee on sight notice, yeah, but approaching a hippo is more like an IQ test, you know? You gotta be a special kind of stupid in order to do it. Anyways, the hippo is pretty much a living tank. It's huge, and it can take a lot of abuse. And guess what? I'm not even kidding when I say this. There are instances of hippos tanking gunshots. But perhaps what makes the situation worse for the polar bear is, well, hippos humiliate lions and can destroy cars with ease. Oh yeah, by the way, I've seen a lot of animals in real life, including lions and grizzly bears, and I gotta say this, the hippo is the scariest animal I encountered, and believe me, they can move very fast. But perhaps its noisy grunts that rattle your ribcage enact some sort of primal fear instinct. But I digress. So how big is a hippo? Well, bull hippos weigh anywhere between 3,000 to 4,000 pounds and reach between 10 to 15 feet in length. So yeah, the hippo is significantly larger than the polar bear by a factor of 3 to 4 times. So this was never a fair fight to begin with. The better question would be, can a polar bear even move a hippo? Yeah, nah, not gonna happen. So I think it's absolutely clear that the hippo can take a lot more damage and has a big size advantage. After all, it doesn't really take a genius to see that. But how about weapons? They both support a different arsenal of weapons. So could the polar bear even match up to the hippo? Possibly. So this brings me to my next topic I want to address, which is weaponry and fighting IQ. Alright, both of these animals crave a good old-fashioned brawl, and they both have their fair share of weapons. But since we already went over the huge size gap between the hippo and the polar bear, this begs the question, can a polar bear even successfully damage and kill a hippo? Well, theoretically, if the hippo were just to stand completely still, it could. So what are the bear's weapons looking like? Well, polar bears have huge paws that are equipped with sharp claws. You know, these things are meant to rip through flesh. And surprisingly, a polar bear's claws are rather unique among bears. They're actually more curved and shorter compared to something like a brown bear's claws. Now, why is that? Well, these claws are specifically designed to help the polar bear gain traction in the Arctic and are more adept at slicing through flesh. So yeah, how would a polar bear even fight a hippo? Well, it would try to stand up and wrestle and bite it, which, let's be honest, isn't really gonna go well for the bear here. It's not even gonna have that great of leverage to even wrestle it. Have you tried wrestling a hippo? Yeah, I don't recommend it. Not even for a lion or a polar bear. Yeah, one reason why this would be very troublesome for the polar bear is because, like I mentioned, it's poor leverage. Usually when polar bears hunt large animals, they tend to go for the rear and put pressure on the spine to weigh them down. In fact, you can kind of see this strategy a lot when observing grizzly bears hunting large animals like bison or elk. Now think about this. A hippo has a very wide body, along with its kind of heighty posture, that being it's standing about 5-ish feet tall off the ground on all fours. And given that, the polar bear would not really have great leverage to manipulate the spine and wrestle the hippo. Also, one thing to take note of is that the hippo's weight tends to be packed towards its body region, which would also kind of give it another reason as to why a polar bear would not do so well when wrestling a hippo. In fact, multiple lions have tried to attempt this kind of situation before, and they tend to be pretty unsuccessful in doing so. Oh yeah, one other thing. The hippo's jaws are not just gonna let the bear get so close to it. Do we even need to compare the jaws of these two animals? The hippo straight up humiliates the polar bear in terms of jaw size and canine length. Now, this is not to say that the bear's jaws are weak, because the polar bear has one of the strongest bites on the planet, which can output about 1200 psi. Now, that's strong enough to easily crush your skull with a bite. And their dentistry is also rather impressive, supporting sharp teeth. But I mean, come on, the hippo's jaws are just so much larger, and it pretty much makes the largest land carnivore look bad. I mean, seriously, look at the difference. Even if the bear could bite the hippo, where is it even gonna clamp its jaws around? The hippo's body is pretty tubular since, you know, it's built like a refrigerator. Anyways, the shape of a hippo's body offers poor leverage if a polar bear decides to bite it. It's not gonna get a good chomp down because of the rounded surface, and even if it did, I doubt it would deal any serious damage. A hippo's skin can grow up to 2 inches deep, and surprisingly, hippos are mostly muscle. Just imagine how hard it would be for the polar bear to get a good bite on a moving 2 to 3 ton aggressive animal attacking it. The bear would just bump its head. And I know some of you are gonna talk about walruses and polar bears, but come on, hippos are built completely different, and polar bears tend to struggle with bull walruses, which are often smaller than hippos. And you know what? I'm even gonna say that if a polar bear manages to catch a hippo off guard, it ain't gonna do anything. But after all those disadvantages, there is one pro that the polar bear has, and that is its agility. You see, the polar bear would likely attack the back area of the hippo because, come on, it knows better not to do a head-to-head clash. And by attacking the rear, the hippo would have trouble catching it. Now, the bear could maybe wear down the hippo like this and keep it at a safe distance, but I'm really trying to get some sort of pro for the polar bear here. Yeah, the hippo's definitely gonna shake it off and catch the bear, but the polar bear could maybe relentlessly pick at it over and over again and play the long game, but that's just kind of grasping for straws at this point. But okay, I think it's about time that we determine a verdict. Alright, we have our stats. So, who wins between a polar bear and a hippo? If not made obvious already, I think the hippo mops the polar bear with, let's say, low to medium difficulty. I mean, come on. It's a polar bear, so it's not gonna be super easy for the hippo, but I think the hippo just won't be too pressed going against it. More like annoyed. In a confrontation, I see the polar bear checking its range and going for the back of the hippo and try to wear it down, but I don't really think it's gonna fatigue the hippo. The hippo is just so much larger, and it's a freely moving nightmare. It's really only a matter of time before the hippo shrugs off the bear and bites it. Then it's pretty much game over after that. Now, the initial bite might not kill the bear, but it's definitely gonna cripple it, leaving the bear to the judgment of the hippo, which it's not gonna show any mercy. The hippo will just keep biting it over and over and trample it until it's dead. So overall, maybe the polar bear might get a few scratches in, but the damage would be minimal before the hippo eventually catches the bear and ends the fight. The hippo is just a bit too much for the polar bear to handle. Thank you for watching, don't forget to subscribe, and have a nice day.